Good day again. We are still discussing social justice and national development in Nigeria. This time, our focus will be on social justice itself. At the beginning, we started with looking at the import of the study by looking at what justice is itself. But when we talk about social justice is seen in this aspect as a political concept, as it deals with the nature and structure of the state, an economic concept, as it is concerned with the equal distribution of goods and services within a society, and again, as an ethical concept, because it is grounded on ethical framework. What we are saying, when social justice is to be discussed, social justice can be seen from a political concept, which means looking at it as a political principle. Social justice can also be seen as an economic concept, where economic materials are indeed divided within the society in a just way, and also seen from an ethical concept, where things are done properly from a moral or ethical framework. Social justice is based on the concept of human rights and equality, and can be defined as the way in which human rights are manifested in everyday lives of people at every level of society. Social justice refers to the collective responsibility of a free and just society to ensure that civil and human rights are preserved and protected for each individual, regardless of gender, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, class, physical or mental ability, and age. Social justice, the way social justice is seen, social justice must be fair whenever you are doing one thing or the other concerning the society. When a government is making a law, it must take into consideration the gender, the race, the ethnicity, the sexual orientation, or class, physical or mental ability, and age of the various persons in the society. So also, if it is an economic issue, the government must also have it in mind that all these classes within a society must be taken care of. What are the issues in social justice? One of those issues in social justice, intersocial treatment. Intersocial treatment. This involves how members of a society treat other groups of people within their locality. How do a member of a society treat other groups within their? How do you see other ethnic groups? How do you see people from other gender? Are you an ageist? Are you somebody who have a bias against old people, or have a bias against young persons, or heterosexism? Although heterosexism may not really apply in the Nigerian context, because Nigeria does not, its law does not accept things that has to do with sexual orientation. Another aspect in which Another issue in social justice is unequal government regulations. When a government makes its policy, how does it interpret among the persons, among the society? This involves laws and regulations that purposely or otherwise discriminate other groups from the same opportunities and resources based on differences that are unique to that group. For instance, government should not, we are treating issues in social justice now. When we are talking about unequal government regulations, it is not expected of government to discriminate in terms of wealth, in terms of uh, access to health, in terms of access to education. Everyone must be given that opportunity to have that to have an access to those things which government, to those policies, to those materials. Today we are talking about palliatives being distributed. It must be seen to be just to every member of the society. And if government does these kind of things, every aspect, every group will become happy. That is what social justice is preaching. Social justice is preaching fairness in government policy, fairness in attitude of government to the society, and how does the government interprets its policy upon the people. In we are now in the subtopic part of the chapter, individual rights and privileges in Nigeria. Individual rights and privileges in Nigeria. Individual rights are essential for freedom. Some privileges are essential for the safety of citizens. A privilege is certain entitlement to immunity granted by the state or another authority to a restricted group, either by birth or on a conditional basis. By contrast, a right is an inherent, irrevocable entitlement held by all citizens or all human beings from the moment of birth. Take into context what we are saying here. We are talking about individual rights and privileges in Nigeria. When we talk about privileges, is just a certain entitlement to immunity granted by the state or another authority to a restricted group, either by birth or on a conditional basis. But in contrast to this, if we are talking about rights, rights is an inherent, irrevocable entitlement, which means something that you are due for, something that is yours, held by all citizens or all human beings from the moment of birth. So those are the right to life and all that. So many things are major when we talk about rights. For instance, the United States Declaration of Independence recognizes that every individual is born with certain unalienable rights, which comes from nature, not from government. Every individual has a force field of individual rights from the Bill of Rights, which protects American citizens from each other and from the United States of American government. We all have our rights, but in terms of privilege, for instance, we can talk about voting is a right, but it is also what? A privilege. A privilege. Not everyone in the nation may vote. You may decide not to vote. You will not be punished for that. It is your right to vote, yes. But on your own, you may say, taking a choice, I am not going to vote. And for that reason, the government will not punish you for that. When we now understand, as we take this aspect, we shall now understand a major difference between individual rights and also privileges. We can see that rights are irrevocable. It is yours and you are entitled to it even from your birth. Whereas privileges is yours, you may want to take it, you may not want to take it. Understanding the differences between individual rights and government provided privileges is as important as understanding the differences between freedom and slavery. Although personal freedom may easily be ranked as supreme among the key freedom of a democratic society, it is not easy to find specific applications which do not more readily fall under other headings of freedom. Thus, such matters as the need for due process of law, that is, that no person shall be subject to legal penalty save for a breach of some specific and duly promulgated law, and that there shall be adequate safeguards regarding the detention and fair trial of accused person, can be said to form essential elements of the rule of law. Here, what is being said, if you must be sentenced, if you have committed a crime, it is, you would have to go through the process of court, and it is the court that will say indeed you have committed a crime against the society. And of course, just like we mentioned earlier, that the end of law is justice. Justice will now be served. Justice will now be served. You could see from what is being said here that individual rights and privileges are something which are almost similar but very fundamentally different. We are treating another: social justice and national development in Nigeria. Social justice and national development in Nigeria. Today, unity is our greatest concern, and it is the duty of every one of us to work to strengthen it. Bitterness due to political differences will carry Nigeria nowhere, and it is something which political leaders must indeed understand. It is best that social justice is used to assuage, to try to make the society feel equal and feel happy with each other. And that is why every government must do everything possible to make this, take social justice and make it as a policy, so that the society can indeed develop. There are so many instances in which the authors used. For instance, because we were not, the social justice system was not well developed, and we saw what it culminated into the Civil War in 1966. The authors explained so many instances why social justice is indeed an important aspect in the development of a society. It is best that we understand these things, that social justice is indeed very important. Boyega defined development as an idea which embodies all attempts to improve the coordination of human existence in all ramifications. Similarly, Naomi averred that development involves economic growth. Some notion of equitable distribution involves economic growth. Some notion of equitable distribution, provision of healthcare, education, housing, and essential services. If the society must grow, what social justice is saying, if the society must grow, there must be an equitable allocation of those resources to every strata of the society. And that is the main aim of social justice. For the sake of social justice, Nigeria must be collectively strive for justice for all, and must oppose those who seek inequality instead of equality, injustice instead of justice, separation instead of unity, and many more others. So social justice is distributing materials, distribute policy in a way that every strata would benefit from it. If there's anything that shows some form of inequality, society would not be so happy with it. And these are the frictions that create problem in a society and create challenges in a society, as sometimes we see today in nations like Nigeria. This study, however, takes solace in the fact that Nigerians have enormous potential to do what is right and to follow what we call the social justice principles, timeless values of social justice. That value defines Nigeria's purpose. They infuse Nigeria's ambition and they fuel Nigeria optimism. The future can be better than the past. It is up to the Nigerian state to infuse the virtues of social justice in its policies. So we can also see what is social justice and how important social justice is to the Nigerian society. If social justice is properly applied, Nigeria would indeed develop. This chapter has thus attempted to discover the notion of social justice, to describe its most salient features, its necessity to the Nigerian state, and indeed to convince every person listening that social justice is indeed an important aspect to the development of the state. Thank you.